from the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you're with us tonight. We are talking about a difficult, divisive issue, but certainly one that is in the news. We are talking about the abortion law that has been passed in Texas, and really abortion laws now across the country. The effects of that Texas law and where things stand all across the country with abortion. We're talking with the executive director of Tennessee Advocates for Planned Parenthood, Francie Hunt. She is joining us now via Zoom. We've had people on the other side of this issue on. We will in the future. But Francie, we appreciate you coming on tonight to talk about this.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to join you all. Thank you.
Well, let's just first of all set the stage of where we are. Explain that Texas law. And we were talking a little bit before we went on the air here. That law is in effect in Texas. Other states have passed laws, but courts have stopped them. That law is in effect in Texas. And what essentially does that law do?
Right. Well, I mean, the Supreme Court has truly failed millions of Texans, because in the dead of night, a couple weeks ago, the Supreme Court turned its back on 50 years of precedent, rendering Roe v. Wade effectively meaningless in Texas. This is an unprecedented action. I mean, it's basically we're calling it a sue thy neighbor law, which means that people who help or intend to help someone get an abortion after 6 weeks in Texas, they could be sued by a neighbor, a distant relative, an abusive partner, or even a stranger from out of state. And whoever ends up suing can collect $10,000 for each successful claim. So in essence, it is a ban at 6 weeks, a time where most people don't even know that they're pregnant yet. And it's pretty tremendous hardship for families that are making hard decisions about what's best for their lives and their family.
So it bans abortion when there is a heartbeat detected. Usually that's at 6 weeks. So it bans abortion after that. And the penalty, is there a criminal penalty, or is it all the civil penalty you're talking about?
It's a civil penalty. And so it's basically taking a bounty out on people who are looking to obtain an abortion. And so it's putting matters in the hands of citizens who don't even have to live in Texas to sue a person. It could be somebody who is driving someone to the health center. The whole idea of helping someone who's in this time of need is so vague, it's dangerous. And you have to think about this too in terms of, from a human perspective, right? Not even a legal perspective, what this does to a person who's trying to weigh their decisions about what's best for their lives, what's best for their families, what might be best for the children that they already have. And so, it's already can be, in some situations, a tense situation to have to go through. And now they're closed off from being able to talk to the very people that they love and could lean on for guidance, because they'll be putting those people at risk at helping them. And that's really horrible to do to anyone.
And to drill down on this, to drill down on this. So if a woman got an abortion after the 6 weeks, after there's a heartbeat detected, is she liable for the $10,000, or would it be the person who drove her, or the doctor, or all of the above? Who has to pay the $10,000?
It would be the person that they're suing. So they're not suing the person that is obtaining the abortion. It's just anybody that helps that person. And to be clear, I want to level set, because many of your viewers may have many different feelings and opinions about abortion. And I just want to say that's totally fine. We're not, it's okay for people to have various views on what is right as it relates to abortion. But to be very clear, this is a policy decision. This is a political decision. This is about who has the power to be making those decisions. And we really believe that any decision regarding a person's pregnancy has to be left up to that pregnant person, their family, in consultation with their, their faith, without any government interference. So I wanted to put that out there because sometimes it can get confusing. This isn't, this isn't really about like making sure we all have the same opinion about abortion. This is really about, I think we could all agree that those sorts of intimate medical decisions need to be held within the family and not with, governors and state legislators and other politicians.
So if a woman got an abortion at 8 weeks, 2 weeks after the viability there, 8 weeks, she would not be sued. She would not be held criminally liable, but the doctor could be sued, or somebody who drove her to the clinic could be sued. Others around her could be sued and have to pay $10,000 or more. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And, and also keep in mind that, many Black, Latino, and Indigenous people, anyone with low incomes, people who may live in rural areas, they're going to face the greatest barriers to access if this unconstitutional law takes effect. And, right now, abortion is virtually inaccessible for patients across Texas. We know that evening at health centers, the midnight of the decision that the bill, the law went into effect, physicians were helping people all the way up until midnight, until the law went into effect. And there were opponents out in the parking lot with their flashlights ready to go. Justice Sotomayor wrote about that in her opinion when the Supreme Court took up the matter recently.
So it is now, to be clear, it's in effect in Texas.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
What is the impact on abortion in Texas? What's the status of getting an abortion right now in Texas?
It is very disturbing and upsetting. We know of people who are having to drive a full day, staying in, if they can afford it, and in a hotel. They may be staying in their car. They're going in. They're having an abortion, and they're having to drive all the way back so that they can take care of their other children or go to work. We've had other folks, and a lot of these are documented in the cases that are going before the court right now. There are folks that are working to obtain an abortion, and they can't get an appointment because there's just an influx of people who are traveling right now out of the state of Texas to go to Colorado, to go to other adjoining states to get the care that they need. Their abortion is still legal, right, before 6 weeks. And so there are providers that are providing care, prior to that 6 weeks for those folks that are able to detect that pregnancy that early. But even in those situations, and this is again documented in the court case, people who, because keep in mind, there are also restrictions on top of these laws. So there's a restriction of a 24-hour waiting period. So in Texas, in Tennessee, by the way, has a 48-hour waiting period, which requires 2 doctor visits whenever you have a waiting period. So that means that they're having to go to the physician, and then they have to wait another 24 hours to go back again. And in that 24-hour waiting period, they may miss the time frame in which they're able to obtain a safe, legal, healthy abortion.
So that law, again, is in effect. Tennessee passed a heartbeat bill. It passed a law that bans abortions once a heartbeat is detected. But a judge has prevented that from going into place, right? So it's not actually happening right now in Tennessee.
Right. It is clearly unconstitutional. And even what's happening in Texas is unconstitutional. I mean, it's pretty standard, recognized law, settled law, as they say. What was not upheld in Texas was the ability to continue to provide abortions until the Supreme Court weighed in on the constitutionality. The first court case that's going to be taking up A pre-viability constitutionality consideration will be on December 1st when oral arguments start for the Mississippi case, which is a 15-week abortion ban. And that case is the Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. And that is actually the first major challenge to Roe v. Wade that we've seen some significant shifts to our Supreme Court.
What do you expect to happen, I guess, in Tennessee? What are you watching in Tennessee? Clearly, the legislature, a majority of people in the legislature want to ban abortion, at least at heartbeat, when there's a heartbeat, maybe more. What do you expect happening? What do you expect to happen in Tennessee?
I'm very scared. I'm very nervous about this because everyone should have the freedom and power to control their own body, their own decision, their own lives. And so when a few people in power can impose their beliefs on everyone, we aren't really truly free. And so we're seeing that in Tennessee. There are already two bans on the books. One is what we call a trigger law, which Tennessee passed, I want to say in 2019. What that does is that if Roe v. Wade is overturned in whole or in part, that it will trigger an immediate ban here in Tennessee. So that's one law that has already passed. And I just will also be clear with viewers because not everybody knows what Roe v. Wade is. So just for folks that viewers that aren't familiar with it, Roe v. Wade is the law right now that federally protects a person's privacy rights. So as it stipulates, a patient and their doctor have a private relationship, and any kind of healthcare decision is ultimately up to that patient in concert with their doctor. And as it relates to abortion, that means that anything that's pre-viable is within that, the sanctity of that relationship, if you will. And by pre-viability, I mean the viability is when the fetus can survive outside of the womb. So anything that's pre-viability then is within the realm of that individual's bodily autonomy or sovereignty to be able to make those decisions over their own lives. So that's Roe. And so the trigger law here in Tennessee, if Roe gets diminished in any way, in whole or in part, and that in part is very important to recognize. For example, with this Mississippi case that's about to come up, that could trigger an entire ban here in Tennessee. The second ban that passed just in the last year, and that was under Governor Bill Lee. It was an omnibus abortion ban, which banned abortion. It did a lot of things. That's why we're calling it omnibus. It was like everything in the kitchen sink. It was a gestational ban, so it could ban abortion at 20 weeks, at 18, at 15, it all the way down. I think they went down to like 6 weeks as well. There was also a reasons ban provision within that omnibus bill, which meant that you could not obtain an abortion for certain reasons, such as like if you are, terminating pregnancy due to Down syndrome, for example. And then there was also a provision which was scientifically proven to be dangerous, actually, which was that what they called an abortion reversal provision. And so that's something that also
so they passed all these things, and it was halted because of Roe v. Wade, because that is the law of the land. Now, it's not a secret that new judges to the Supreme Court are likely to oppose Roe v. Wade, may want to overturn Roe v. Wade. So I ask you, if they do, if it's the Mississippi case, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, does it ban abortion all across the country, or does it leave it to each individual state? What happens if Roe v. Wade is overturned in the Supreme Court?
Well, that's the big question. I think the danger is that what will probably happen, we think, is it may go to the states to determine what restrictions they want to enact, and that could include pre-viability bans. But that's what remains to be seen, I think, with the Mississippi case.
When you say, okay, so say that again, pre-viability bans, that would mean they would ban abortion when there's a heartbeat. Is that right? It's 6 weeks. You couldn't get an abortion after 6 weeks.
Well, if Mississippi, for example, if they pass that 15-week ban, if they end up upholding that law, then we know that from the Supreme Court's position, 15 weeks, it would be constitutional under their eyes. So that would have national consequences. That any state that would want to enact a ban up to 15 weeks probably would then be recognized as legitimate constitutionally under the Supreme Court.
And we go into a situation where there are different laws in different states, and the battles go to different states. But you would see maybe in the South, abortion is illegal, essentially. In the North, it may not be. Is that kind of where we might be heading?
Right. I mean, we could see up to half of the country without access to safe legal abortion. And again, for folks that feel apprehensive about the notion of abortion, I want to be really clear that by making abortion illegal, you're not eliminating abortion. You're just making it illegal and potentially very unsafe. Now, abortion in and of itself is an incredibly safe procedure. But when you don't make it legal and accessible by, to be provided by medical professionals, then you start getting into some dangerous territory. And because we know that people who do not want to be pregnant will find ways to not be pregnant. And we know that in other countries where they've banned abortions, and we know that in our own American history. What happened before 1973 when so many women died.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. We're going to continue this discussion. We're going to take a break. That kind of sets the table. If you want to call in, there is the number. Please give us a call. 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.